Gloves Off is always on point. On point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by The Best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off. If you've ever wondered, if you ever had a clue what would happen if Batman, the Avengers, the X-Men fought the 47 Ronin, you will have great hitting, power strikes, and speed. This event will be known as the North Texas Stick Fighting Championships. It's open to all martial artists. This is where legends are formed, where they're forged, where they are founded. Sign up now. Call the number 956-401-4868 and look up the website at www.savate.biz. So remember, this is for serious martial artists. If you're not serious, sit back and whisper about the event. If not, we'll see you there.
Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitrón. I'm here today with our former mayor and a good friend, Mr. Raul Salinas. How are you doing, Mayor?
How you doing? Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Nice to be here.
It's nice for you to come here, and it's always great to talk because and to listen to what you have to say, because your experience is fruitful, and we need to learn that. We were talking the other day, and we sat down and we said, all the horrific events that have plagued us in the United States. And folks, we're talking about mass shootings. And we're gonna kind of decipher all that, and our hearts go out to all the families that have been affected and all the communities that are there. And by God, please, God bless America and keep us safe. But we're going to talk about that, and I'll ask you a little bit of your expertise and where you're coming from in that.
Well, first of all, I spent 27 years of my life in a great career with the FBI. I was so humbled to be given an opportunity. I was one of the first Latinos, Hispanics to join the FBI. It was not easy, but saw a lot of things, worked a lot of major cases. And I gotta tell you that things have really changed. In the last few years, I would say in the last decade, these mass killings is just incredible. What happened in El Paso is one of the top 10 incidents of mass killings, domestic terrorism, that has been recorded in recent years. People there simply to shop at Walmart. It was tax-free weekend. People from both sides of the border were shopping. There was about 2,000 people at the mall. And we had a individual from Allen, Texas, that was filled with anger, a racist, no doubt, because he himself in a unofficial report that he traveled 11 hours to El Paso to hunt down Mexicans, or Mexican-American Mexicans, whatever. He traveled 11 hours. This is planning. And
Of
people
course.
say, well, he was crazy.
No, he
Well,
planned
he was
it.
pretty well planned. I mean, the sad thing is that we asked ourselves, when is this going to stop? It happened the next very few hours later in Dayton, Ohio,
Exactly
where 9
right.
people were gunned down and several were injured. When you think about the people that were killed, you say, oh my gosh, when is this going to stop? Those 22 lives that were lost, 8 of them were Mexican nationals. People that just simply came to shop. And this guy is a coward, okay? He was arrested. Maybe we can find out something about him, what happened to his brain and study. In the incident in Ohio, in Dayton, Ohio, the police responded within 30 seconds and killed him, dropped him. He had 200 rounds. Can you imagine a bar filled with hundreds of people with 200 rounds, two magazines, 100 each, how many people he would have killed? The first thing that comes to mind is, what the hell's going on in this country? We have people with assault weapons, we have people selling weapons at gun shows every Sunday, and my point is, who's getting these weapons? Are we doing the proper 7-day check or whatever? Background. We have to definitely, Paul, we have to have background checks.
As you know, and as we can see, I hunt, okay? And a lot of people say, and I'm gonna step back, because these horrific events all have one thing in common. And that one thing is called a gun-free zone,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And that utopia, we have found out that really doesn't exist. Now, what does exist is the right for us to defend ourselves. And that cannot be infringed, number one.
No,
We
I
need
agree
to
with
understand what the Second Amendment is, and the Second Amendment is not for hunting. The Second Amendment is for the protection of our own and for a well-regulated militia, which we'll get into later on. But what I'm talking about, the horrific events, a lot of people are dissecting the hate. Now they're calling it white supremacy, while they knew that all 3 of them, because it happened in California the week before in that garlic festival, if I'm not mistaken. These were all members of a hate group that should be a terrorist group that was called Antifa, that was being brought out to the open. And that needs to stop. We need to take actions on that. And I understand about guns and background checks, and we need them. I'm not opposed to background checks whatsoever. People say he shot him with a .223. 223 is a very small round. It can be used for hunting as well. Now, what differentiates an assault rifle to a regular rifle to so on and so forth is it the stock? Is it the way it looks? So we need to kind of step back, and not everybody, just because of our feelings, go up there. We have to take it as how can I say, we have to be more responsible in the way we act.
Well, that's very true. And let's make one thing clear. I respect the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms against foreign and domestic enemies or whatever. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is when you have a lot of this rhetoric. America, whether you agree, may not agree with me, but I gotta tell you, America has been divided for a long time.
Yes.
And when President Obama was elected president, the divide grew. You don't know how many times my fellow mayors use the N-word to describe the President of the United States of America. Right now, more than ever, this country is so divided. You don't know how many times, even hundreds of times, that I was told on the radio when I would go on CNN or Fox National News, and mostly when I was on Fox. And I'm being honest. And I would talk against the wall because I felt very strongly that there's areas that we do need a wall. I'm not totally against the wall. I think there's areas that are desolate that we have to protect our border. There's no question about that. But you know how many times I got called a wetback?
No.
One day, I had somebody call me to be he said, call me from San Antonio. He said, I want to speak to that Mexican mayor, Messcan, Mexican mayor. I said, well, I'm not, it was about 7:15 in the morning. I said, well, I'm not a Mexican mayor. I'm of Mexican-American descent. And I'm proud of that, but I'm proud of being American. I've served the military. And he said, well, let me tell you something, boy, with the emphasis on boy.
Sure.
He said, if you like Mexico so much, I saw you talking about against the war, why in the hell don't you go be mayor in Mexico? And you know what? I was cordial. I said, you know, sir, I have really thought about it because they pay a hell of a lot better. And he hung up on me. That was it. But the time that I got 1,600 emails calling me everything from a wetback, a spick, in Providence, Rhode Island, the firemen in that city were demonstrating, and they saw my tag that said Laredo. And one of the firemen that was demonstrating for a higher salary says, why don't you go back to Mexico? Mayor Cicilline, who's now a member of Congress, wanted to go and confront them. And I said, why should I lower myself? But there's that hate in this country that we do not need.
And you're absolutely correct. That hate has been there way too long.
Oh, sure, but it's escalated.
It was that when Obama came into office, I voted for him and I said, no, we're gonna have a mulatto mayor. He can bring everything together, okay? Or interracial mayor, whatever people wanna say. Mend that fabric back. But it tore since then. And it tore dramatically. So that fabric of brotherhood and fellowship and neighborly love was torn right open. And I told myself, you're gonna see hate, and we had these conversations before, you're gonna see hate so much develop that you're gonna see the old hate come out. You're gonna see the hate of the KKK, you're gonna see the hate of the Black Panthers, you're gonna see that.
The white supremacy.
You're just gonna, not all hate, just
Yeah.
explode.
On both
okay?
sides.
On both sides, on all sides. And people said, no, you're crazy. We're at it now. We're at a pinnacle of it. Okay? And how can we control that back? Because if it goes any further, there's gonna be way too much civil unrest. And our leaders have to step back, and they themselves have to stop condoning that. I'm in all sides, because I hear a rhetoric that's going on from Democrat leaders, and then they say Trump said this, but they're saying, go attack him. There's some movie that was about to be released about hunting Trump supporters. You all are just putting gasoline onto the fire, and that has to stop. Now let's go back to the shooting of El Paso. You have an individual that wrote a manifesto that said that he's going over there to shoot Mexicans. He lives in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which Allen is in that Metroplex.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many Walmarts are in that Metroplex? A whole of a lot. You know how many Mexicans are in Metroplex? Probably a lot more than Juarez, okay? So we need to understand what drove him to drive to that particular Walmart to commit that horrific crime.
There's a symbolic reason.
There's a reason.
The reason being that you have a very major city, Juarez, on the other side. And it's gotten a lot of publicity for the unrest that exists. The number of women that were killed, it still hasn't been totally resolved. It's been there for years. But the bottom line, the parents, they knew what this character was up to. They knew, maybe not, somebody knew that he had weapons.
Well, I just read an article written that the mother or the grandmother had already called the police on him and telling them that he was thinking about doing this type of acts.
Mm-hmm.
How come our police didn't pick him up then? Understand? We're losing it somewhere along the line. And I'm not talking about our police officers that are running the beat, because those individuals are above A. Our first responders are A plus, period. Understand? I'm talking about the investigators that are the office pinky that's sitting down behind a desk. You guys have to start doing your work.
Well,
You know, and I think that's where we're losing it, because all of a sudden you can get a bunch of files and they say, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow.
well, let me just insert something here. We don't know whether that actually happened, first of all. But when you get a complaint, and you ask the complainant, she may have not identified herself. But now you have the tracking number where you call from. We don't know how much, whether it was a follow-up. We don't know if the lady was willing to give a formal statement, okay? So a lot of those things come into play. So, and then who knows who picked up the call? It may not have been a police officer, it may just be a complaint clerk who does not have the experience as a police officer. But when something like this happens, you have to respond. When somebody makes that kind of threat, you can't drop the ball. Whether they drop the ball, I don't know, I can't answer that.
We had the same type of, and I'm gonna put the name red flags on the Parkland High School shooter, who had countless of red flags on him. The sheriffs knew this was going on, and then you have him commit this horrific crime.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of intertwines in there. Was he allowed? Was it this? Oh, he's not gonna do it. Is it so-and-so's son? We need to start acting. But we cannot jump. Our leaders, our Congress cannot jump and say, you know what, we have to pass these red flag
Mm-hmm.
laws. Because red flag laws are dangerous, period. And I think we can agree into that. Because once you start removing your Fourth and your Seventh Amendment and your rights, we can't get our rights back. We have to protect our rights. We just have to understand, how about purchasing? Okay? If we're gonna, you know, I have no quarrel when they said we're gonna remove the bump stocks. And that was and people might debate, that was a concern. I said, I don't see no use in them, okay? Now, I don't see no use in silencers, okay? I don't see no use. But you can buy silencers. You do a federal check and you do a license and you can buy a silencer. Some people use them at the ranch for predatory control because they have way too many predator coyotes to killing their lambs and their calves and so on and so forth. Is it needed for that purpose? Yes, but you have to have a federal license. Do we need another federal license to get get an assault type rifle from now forward? Maybe so. What's gonna happen to the ones that were already there? Are we gonna just go in there and remove them? We can't do that. You know, we find ourselves in a bunch of loopholes, we're in an entangled web that we really have to step back and not just jump forward and all of a sudden we remove rights. What do you have to say about that?
Well, you know, if somebody wants to get a hold of a weapon, they can get a hold of a weapon.
Of course.
No matter come hell or high water, they're gonna find a way to find a weapon. And that's dangerous. Look what happened at the church near San Antonio, where that guy had a record in the military. I can't remember which, the Air Force. He had a conviction where it would prohibit him from getting a weapon. Somebody dropped the ball and they didn't enter on NCIC, on the criminal registry, and he would have not been able to get a weapon. Then you say, well, could that have been averted? Possibly. At least you had something to go by. But if you don't have those safeguards, then you got a problem. He was a loose cannon. I mean,
And he was stopped by a good guy with a gun.
yeah. And unfortunately, didn't have anybody with a gun at the Walmart in El Paso.
Sure. You know, El Paso, it's very, very, I've never been there. I've never been to that Walmart. I don't know if that Walmart permitted you to carry concealed or not.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe the mall didn't permit you to carry concealed or not. There's some areas that you are prohibited in carrying because the owner says you cannot carry and they have to have a legal sign and the signage has to be out there. And people do not understand that here in Texas, you have the right to carry your weapon open as well as concealed. But you have to go through a background check. People that carry weapons don't just carry weapons because, and I have a concealed license, and I don't carry open for many reasons. Do I carry on my person? Yes. Do I go to the places where it says you cannot go to this restaurant because the owner, blah, 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 and the premise is here? I would avoid that, go somewhere else. Understood. But I do not understand Walmart, because a Walmart here you can carry, you just can't, you can even carry open. So I don't know about the Walmart open.
I have not seen, I can tell you the mall, the Norte.
You cannot carry open.
Not at all.
You can carry concealed.
No, sir. You can't carry a weapon. You're prohibited from carrying a weapon. Yes, sir.
No, it's a stated, you cannot carry open, you can carry concealed. I know, because that's, I
don't pay attention because I don't.
You can't carry an open weapon
Yeah.
in the Mall of the Norte. So I don't know what happened over there in El Paso. If you could carry
I
an
don't
open.
know the situation, but unfortunately.
It happened.
It happened, and he didn't have anybody nearby, and then he went outside, and he went to his car, he was arrested, he's a coward.
It's a coward, big time, big time coward.
And I don't know the circumstances of the arrest, I can't talk about that. But, you know, the problem is that you go to places, even in Houston, Texas, where you have, at the malls, where you have people that have high-powered weapons. At the malls, at different restaurants. I've seen it myself. In Mexico, people have shotguns, have weapons at the major malls, major stores.
I mean, you're talking about the security, or you're talking about?
Security.
The security.
Yeah, obviously security, I'm sorry. Yeah, security. And, is that gonna happen now on? I don't know. But you know what? I think the most important thing that I see, and I talk about this all the time, you see something, say something. But we don't wanna get involved. When the hell are we gonna wake up? If you see something suspicious, I would rather have the PD, the SO, or whatever, go and investigate that individual rather than keep it quiet, because that guy may just be in the beginning and it just starts to percolate and get worse. He starts to get worse. So, I don't know, but I think that we have to emphasize more. You see something, make damn sure you say something. Make sure you report it. Because I can tell you, the guy in all these places, in El Paso, in Florida, where the LGBT bar killed all those people, his wife knew what he was up to, never said a damn thing. Now, if you don't say something and you're aware of it, then you ought to be convicted, you ought to be charged too. You ought to be charged. Because you gotta do it at least, look, you had 22 people killed. They were killed like, they were on their knees, pleading for their lives.
Of course, and
this guy killed him, shot him on the head.
These are horrific crimes, and I see a lot of double standards in these crimes. Okay, and I'm seeing a huge double standard, especially with the one in El Paso. They're running with a narrative of white supremacy, and everybody's hang-ho white supremacists are the ones that do this. But when you look back to the ones that do it, and you just mentioned the one over at that bar, it was
in Florida.
Yeah, in Florida. It was a Islamic individual that did it. So what we need to understand, and I know the FBI does this, has to understand what political affiliation, what denomination, and what are the reasons of the hate crime and organization that belong to, because they have all this documented. So is it going to be good? We're going to spread it open. It was just white supremacy and hush hush when it's Antifa and when it's an Islamic member. No, it should be open to everybody across the board, and that should not be hidden. And and I think that's just the media playing upon this hate that's going on.
The FBI, I know that the President Trump called on the FBI to start working and developing a system to monitor these groups. Well, we can't monitor anybody unless we have intelligence, and people need to get involved. They need to get involved, and the FBI has a good data programs, and they're trying their best with other agencies. We're working very closely with local and state and federal agencies, and also the locals. And I emphasize the importance of locals, whether it's the constables, whether it's the district attorney's office, or the the local police departments, the various agencies. The most important we have to thwart and deter this kind of care, we need intelligence, we need information. And the only way to get information is to talk to each other. One of the problems that the FBI had was with the CIA when we had 9/11. There was a communication breakdown between the Bureau and the CIA. Okay, we had our own territory, and
Sure.
FBI wanted their information because they didn't trust the CIA. And what happened? I mean, we had the tragic 9/11, and there's a mandate now, a federal mandate for the FBI and the CIA must share intelligence. And when you don't have that, and you have something here and you don't share it, then you're better cooperating.
And that sharing needs to happen. But just like what happened with 9/11, everybody rushed and they produced the Patriot Act that went against the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
It attacked it dramatically. Anybody could be put in there. Everybody could finger point. We do not need that anymore. Okay. Right now we're running scared. I saw what President Trump said. I've watched it several times. He's been fighting against the censorship of social media towards conservatives, towards people that are more constitutional defenders than constitutionalists than people on the left. And they've been going after Facebook and so on and so forth. And he stops and he says, now I want the FBI to work closely with these companies that have already segregated certain individuals, okay? And work closely to see who's gonna monitor them to say, you know what? Paul Buitron, Raul Salinas said something about here, we should go in there, and all of a sudden you have a knock on the door. That is very dangerous. That is exactly what happened before the mass genocide of World War II. Okay, we cannot segregate anybody. We have to be very careful what we're going to rush into, okay? Because we can rush into something very horrible. And I understand about passing the information from FBI to the state, and everybody should be working. If you're a police agency, you should understand what's going on throughout the board. But right now, in the state of Texas, and I'm talking about the state of Texas, we do have laws that if somebody, and the police officer doesn't have to see it, doesn't have to witness it. Those are health code laws. You call in and you say, you know what, my cousin's over here and he's acting pretty strange. They'll come and pick him up. They don't need a magistrate to say anything.
Well,
Then they can go get a magistrate they'll arrest him, and then they'll get a magistrate to get him some help. Those laws exist in our codes in Texas.
I don't know how anybody can be prohibited from being interviewed regarding an allegation.
Sure.
It's not an interrogation, it's an interview. And if they're available for an interview, but you have to weigh how you handle the
Sure.
procedure. You can't come in like gangbusters.
No, and Florida produced a Baker's Act that has taken a bunch of people off the market. Now the danger portion of the Baker's Act is the pointing of the finger of anybody, and the police go over there and all of a sudden arrest you. That's pretty dangerous. But here in Texas, you do have a health code that can be enforced, and the person can be detained, can be arrested, and can be taken downtown, like you said, investigators, and all of a sudden, if the police or whoever says, is it right, they'll take them before a magistrate, and guess what? Their guns are removed. That can happen. That happens.
Well, if you have a propensity for violence, that's a clue there. We had an incident here back in '94, where the son of a elections commission, Rolando Guerra, this young man was troubled. In fact, he threatened me and called me at my FBI office, and I had a conversation with the parents. Number one, that he should have the gun removed, but they were so scared of him that he finally blew up, and he killed Rolando and 3 members of his family. It was back on December 28, 1994. It was really tragic. It was so sad, and then he pulled the gun on himself. But he was a troubled young man, and maybe in those times we didn't know how to handle this. And what I did, I shared the data with the police department. Did we have probable cause? The fact that he threatened me, you know, it was not sort of, it was insinuated. But other people went and he was threatened with their weapon. Well, at that point in time, he should have been arrested.
Of course.
Yeah. But, you know, a lot of times people don't want to get involved. They say, no me quiero meter, I don't want to get involved. And that's where the problem is. Because maybe he said, he's just threatening, but he's not going to do anything. Well, nowadays, you can't go by that. You can't go by that. And I pledge, and I really urge the community that when somebody knows something that's of the gravity that is so dangerous, you've got to say something, man. You can't keep it hidden. And over the phone, depending on who takes the call, whether you get any
The clerk or what?
If you've ever wondered, if you ever had a clue what would happen if Batman, the Avengers, the X-Men fought the 47 Ronin, you will have great hitting, power strikes, and speed. This event will be known as the North Texas Stick Fighting Championships. It's open to all martial artists. This is where legends are formed, where they're forged, where they are founded. Sign up now. Call the number 956-401-4868 and look up the website at www.savate.biz. So remember, this is for serious martial artists. If you're not serious, sit back and whisper about the event. If not, we'll see you there. Gloves Off is always on point. Bringing you the best on current issues, community affairs, and the happenings around us. This segment of Gloves Off is brought to you by The Best, so pay them a visit. Check them out. This is Gloves Off.